Welcome to the Orange Hammer Podcast. My name is Corbett Storick. I've been a licensed general contractor for 8+ years, specializing in new construction, renovation, furniture building. I'm the son of an architect and an interior designer, and I've been surrounded in this industry since birth, watching all aspects from concept, design, build, punch list, and of course, all the problems that come up in between. In my time in Durham, North Carolina, I've noticed a significant gap in knowledge between homeowners who need work and the people who do the work. On this podcast, I hope to break down the process of homeownership from the perspective of both the homeowner and the contractor in an effort to help raise the knowledge of homeowners about their homes and the construction/renovation process. I hope you enjoy. If you're enjoying the Orange Hammer Podcast, or if you have a topic that you want covered, or have recently done a project, please contact the Orange Hammer Podcast. The Orange Hammer Podcast is on Instagram and Facebook. Please like and subscribe, share on whatever platform you're enjoying your podcast on. Also, check out our YouTube channel, The Orange Hammer. The Orange Hammer Podcast is proud to be brought to you by CRS Contracting LLC for all your construction and handyman needs, new buildings to renovations, furniture building, EV charger install, or even a TV mounted. You can call me, Corbett Storick. It'd be my pleasure to help you. You can find me on Instagram at CRS Contracting. WSDG, the Walter Storick Design Group, specialists in architectural and acoustical consulting. Check out WSDG.com. And Taylor Bragg, for all your artistic needs in all mediums. You can find her on Instagram at brag_about_art. That's brag, BRGG, with 2 G's. She's the fantastic artist behind the Orange Hammer logo, and she did my fantastic table painting of my podcasting table. Right, here we are, everybody. Welcome, episode 45. Wieland, thanks for coming. I know we have rescheduled, 27,000 times, but you know, you've got a life and a job and kids, so it happens. Yep. But thanks for coming, man. How you doing?
Yeah, pretty good, man. Not too bad.
This is going to be a fun episode because you're as far removed from this world and industry as you could possibly be, but the cool thing is you just finished building your own personal house.
Yep.
And from the sounds of what Jim was telling me, we're more involved than just like the homeowner who's like, oh, I approved that design and here's a check. So you were really like in from the get-go, and not everybody who's building a house has, family in the industry or adjacent.
Sure.
Not everybody who's building a house has your type of like job that gives you that freedom and schedule to be involved in that.
Definitely.
So that's a unique perspective that I'd love to dive into.
Yeah, man. Feel free.
So if you can walk back as beginning to the project as we can remember.
Sure.
No address over the air, but what county, city are we in?
Bahama.
Okay, so we're still in Durham County.
Still in Durham, but it's
or it's Pershing County.
I believe. I think it's still Durham County because I still get recycling picked up by Durham, so I would assume so. That's still kind of within that realm, but.
Do you remember what office you submitted a building permit to? Because that would determine it pretty quickly.
I honestly don't even remember submitting those permits myself.
Okay.
I think it was all through Jim.
Okay.
That's another blessing of having a stepdad who's involved in that world.
Yeah, so a little bit about, people have no idea who we're talking about.
Yeah,
so Jim Lewis, who we will get on this podcast one day, he actually told me he wants to come on and sing a song, and I was like, dude, bring the guitar, let's do it. I got mics. But he's, for all intensive purpose, and nothing illegal about what I'm about to say, he's basically a contractor without a license.
Sure.
And
definitely.
Again, there's nothing illegal about what I'm saying, so don't go after my boy Jim. But he will legally get the permits through either a contractor he works with that will be involved with the project, and then he becomes like a project manager, or he, again, I just want to keep prefacing legal, will have the homeowner file for the permit, which is what you did.
Yeah, it's almost like he's serving as a consultant that can really like kind of guide you in a very hands-on way.
And almost like a project manager.
Yeah. And for me, especially, it's kind of a double benefit because at least for someone like me, I like to know the inner workings of what's going on. And I think, having someone like Jim who is willing to kind of walk you through a lot of those inner workings that sometimes you are spared from, and rightfully so, like, I think it's still informative to kind of understand what's going on behind the scenes, the timing, stuff like that. So.
Absolutely. Yeah. The average homeowner would say over a coffee that they would want to be involved, just like you said. But I personally believe the average homeowner would simply not have the mental, not that they would be dumb, but just like the bandwidth to start absorbing industry terms and all, like, oh yeah, the electrical blah, blah, blah.
Sure.
They just, you start going into details real quick. And it's like, wait a minute. You're speaking Hindu to me. I have no idea what you're talking about.
And then how much extra time do you waste basically trying to like educate someone
on
something that ultimately, like, leave it to someone who actually really understands it, but at the same time can maybe give you just an understanding of what's going on.
Yeah. I think that's an interesting point. So Jim, family, stepdad, kind of your project manager / consultant.
Sure.
He comes with a utility belt of subcontractors, which means, like me, he can do anything from the ground up.
Sure.
He comes with probably more years of knowledge than I've been alive.
Sure.
I don't know how old you even are.
33.
Then definitely, because we're the same age. So he's been doing this longer than I've been alive.
Yeah.
And he really does understand the facets, and he understands the expected problems, the expected delays. And really all I could shoot him down for is, like, not the most organized guy on the planet. But, you take the good with the bad. He's the devil,
Yes, yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And
we're trying to work together on some more projects, and I'm hoping my organization, like, rubs off on one a little bit. I'm like, hey, look at all my tools neatly placed in the back of the truck in the exact place they always are.
Yeah.
Paperwork. Not that hard.
Yeah. Communication. Yeah, that could. But, at the same time, too, people like this with such big hearts, I think they also are sometimes plagued with, especially people like Jim, they really want to help everyone, and I think that's something that a lot of contractors have in common, is that you ultimately got into this business because you want to help people achieve their dreams and you want to help them see these things through. And, it's kind of like building a classic car. Like you promise someone a number on a car, then inevitably problems come up, or when you're dealing with subs, they're not on time or what have you. And it's good to have someone in that place that can kind of at least go to bat for you.
Yeah, and explain, or at least you get the explanation from Jim, and you get the like full cover blown back as you get to see. So you get to really see
very transparent.
It's very transparent, and you get to see that, like, all, like, how am I want to say this? Like, contractors, when something goes something goes wrong with air quotes here.
Sure.
Because, like, the weather is not something goes wrong. If you dig the footers and it rains, you're not going to pass a footer inspection.
Yeah.
Like, this is, wet footers fail. So, but they get it in the teeth from an unexperienced, for the majority, most other people who are building something.
Sure.
And it is like, it's an immediate, like, blame game, or like, a dishonesty or something like that. And it's like, wait a minute, there is just how this works. Like, there's and that is something that I find even with this podcast, where I've been trying to find the words over several episodes, it's really impossible to explain.
Yeah.
That, like, you give somebody a budget and there's like a $25,000 line marker for issues. Like, wait a minute, we're expecting to run into like $25,000 worth of problems. And it's like, well, no, but would you rather have that there and not use it, or have that there and all of a sudden when there's a $4,000 electrical problem?
Well, it's like the new home construction that I just did through Caruso. Like they always have a I guess what's called like a lot finishing fee. So they add on like 15, 20K at the end, or not at the end, but in the beginning, they basically tell you, hey, this is a finishing fee that we may or may not use. This is basically for if extra trees need to be cleared, if more gravel needs to be put down. So it's exactly what you're talking about. Yeah. It's like I definitely appreciated knowing, hey, I could spend up to this much extra, but I might also get this 20K back at the end of all this, which I did get a good sum of that back towards the end. So it wasn't really something that adversely affected the process. If anything, like what you just said, it was something that gave me the expectations up front.
Yeah.
Which I think in construction and any kind of contracting work, goddamn, like expectations and communications definitely are something that I see across the board aren't always up to par, you know, especially as far as like timing goes or subcontractors running late. And like you also pointed out just a second ago, how sometimes people in Jim's position will have to carry the load of those subs falling short, being late, whatever it is. And I feel for them at that point. Because,
Yeah, I mean, I've gotten like slightly heated with Jim sometimes, and it's
I think we all have.
Yeah, and it's like, hey, you know, you told me your foundation crew was gonna run this drainage yesterday, and I'm here today, and it hasn't even been dug. And it's like one of those things where, like, you know, his foundation crew was doing this at the friends and favor price. And they couldn't leave the job that they're getting paid 3 times as much on. They had to finish it. And all of the reasons make sense, but it wasn't like Tuesday before the job I was told that, you know? And it's like, so you don't really get mad. You just get like, you know, if you had literally texted me, like, they're not going to be there tomorrow. They're going to be there Friday, finishing a job in Cary. Sorry for the inconvenience. You go, oh, cheers. Thanks.
It literally solves a lot of problems.
It solves all of it.
If anyone listening right now is looking to do that kind of work, be a contractor, be someone like Jim, like, I think the biggest skill you could honestly learn is be as comfortable with being uncomfortable. And by that, I mean, be comfortable in delivering bad news. And if it is bad news, don't wait until the last minute to give it. And I know this is very cliche advice that you probably hear throughout
life.
No, it's such a
dub, but it's so true.
This would really alleviate a lot of problem. You could charge as much as you want. If you're communicating and you're telling people what to expect and when to expect it, I think people are able to palate a much higher price point knowing that you are really on the ball with that. And personally, having had jobs done on the family price and on the full price, I'm always going to kind of lean towards paying people their full price because I really see a higher execution in the work that they do. I see them prioritizing when they need to be at that job more. You know, they say it throughout time, you pay what you get for, you know, and if you're going to try and lowball someone, okay, cool. You're going to get a good deal, but it's like they say, there's that triangle of like, you can have something cheap and fast, but it's not going to be good. You can have it good and fast, but it's not going to be cheap. So it's all these trade-offs that I think you have to think about, and any person that could get into this job and address those 3 points at the same time, I think you're doing pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, you can never get all 3, and a lot of times, you know, I've learned the ability to go into a job where somebody's given me the $100 just to come out for an estimate, which I'll take off at the end if they hire me. So it's not free up front, but it becomes a free estimate because I'm a one guy and I can't just drive around for free all day long.
Yeah.
But I've walked into like some project, you know, a house, they're like, yeah, this door is kind of like, you know, sticking or whatever, or something as an example. And I'm like, okay, well, I need to know what you're looking for. Like, do you want me to attempt to jerry rig this door and it will break again pretty soon, but it'll be better than it was for a low fee? Do you have, you know, do you want me to start pricing a door replacement, like minimum $1,000 for a door and labor and trim on both sides?
It's like everything in life.
Like, what level are we at? Because I would not, like, in the early days, I didn't have that ability. Sure. And that exact example actually happened. And I just went right into, oh, you need a new door. Let me go price you a new door. And I sent her like, this is what the door costs. This is what the trim costs. This is what it'll cost for me to do it. Yeah. And I just got no reply. Like, they were just like, they were flabbergasted that it would be that much money. And I was like, well, I mean, the door is, you know, it's a $340 door. I can't do a $200 job at $340. Like, what do you...
Yeah.
But they were in the, like, we have $100 or $200 to get this better than it was. We're not. And so, like, I had to learn that ability of kind of like
mitigating expectations.
And also just like being upfront sometimes and asking like, hey, do you have a budget in mind? Because you're talking about stuff on the very high end, but if your budget is half of that, we need to manage like the expectations of like, I can't build this doggy door with all the things you want and have it be free or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm actually going to price a dog door.
You definitely want to command your worth. And I mean, I've seen that. I mean, you can see that with every industry. I can talk about it with tattoos. You can talk about it with construction. It's always like that. It's like setting an expectation, making sure that everyone, including the client, including you, is like just communicating openly about what they're expecting and what they're comfortable with spending. Because sometimes with tattoos, probably with building too, and I saw this with the new house, like your endorphins start kicking in. You're excited because you're spending money and you're doing something for yourself, and you get kind of wrapped up in it. So it's good to kind of just back it up a second, lay everything out, and then go from there.
Have you had big issues in the tattoo world where you're like halfway into a project and then like,
I mean, there's definitely.
Do they just like stop midway through a sleeve and they're like, I don't have the money to keep going.
I've
see you in 6 months.
Yeah, I've definitely witnessed similar situations like that where a client will come in and will think that they've communicated clearly that they want an entire sleeve, let's say, and they start working through the process, and the artist realizes like, oh, what I've quoted them is really only going to get this halfway done. So then the artist, like you, has to have a hard conversation, being like, look, okay, I'm at this point. I've kind of spent the budget that we discussed. It's going to take this much more to finish this. And sometimes that we've had clients who have gotten really upset because the artist at the time, who by the way no longer works for us, didn't communicate properly about his rates and gave the impression that he was going to do this entire tattoo for this set price. And this girl never returned, never had it finished by him, and just went somewhere else to have it finished because she just felt like it was getting drawn on. And again, I can see problems on both sides. I could see that she didn't communicate her expectations properly, didn't communicate that this is my entire budget for the entire thing. But I can also see where he built the expectation that, yeah, I got you covered. I'll work with your budget. We'll get this done. But then turning on her and almost doubling the price. And it's like, I can understand where both people kind of were off put by that process. So that happens routinely, but that's also where, I really try and encourage anyone that comes to work with us to focus as much on their bedside manner as their work. Because I mean,
texts are such an amazing tool. I have found
it can make things more efficient
in the state of let's be clear, it can make things very confusing.
It can,
but
especially if it's emotional issues.
Yeah, but my dad taught me that like after you have the phone call where everybody agrees, you then basically he'll send an email because he's an old school guy, but us youngins will send a text that's basically like, hey, just to reiterate, on that call, we agreed on this many hours, this much money, and we're doing, the rows on your back.
You hit your bullet points.
Just so we were all on the same page on that great phone call we just had.
Yeah, you hit your bullet
points. And that
can
immediately be like, oh no, I thought we were at this number. Like, oh no, we just do we need to have another phone call? And like, I don't think our industries are any different in that regard.
Sure.
Like, pick the industry for that matter. It's communication, expectations, respect in both directions. Like if a client was disrespecting one of your artists, you'd probably be like, hey, fuck off. Like, this is not how we do this.
Well, yeah.
Like, you got to be a decent human being.
And on that note,
and on the other side, like you just said, this artist doesn't work for you anymore. Like, I don't want to get into the reasons of why they left, but I'm sure that's one of them.
Didn't help.
It didn't help that like he was a poor communicator and had some issue with some client. And, I had a similar thing with my sleeve. I had designs in my head and this great first meeting. And then, we do one session and she's like, well, FYI, all the things that you're giving me are way more detailed than we discussed and taking way more time. And I was like, heard.
Yeah.
Let's adjust.
Sure.
And like, and it was great because like, she gave me a discount from the hourly rate because we had discussed and it got bigger and bigger. And she was like, all of a sudden sessions just became like, oh, this session will be that much money instead of like, how many hours were we here?
Counting hours.
Yeah. And it just like, it was more than I planned, but still the communication was clear from the get-go when things started to change. And let's be honest, they were changed by me,
sure.
The person who's got the art on them. And so like, but that's, an example of two people who were clearly communicating the minute the problem came up. In this case, it was I told you it'd be about this much. We're adding detail. Detail takes time. Time costs money. And I was like, I approve, basically.
Just like a house, you know.
Yeah, I approve the change order.
The more complicated you make something, the more work it's going to involve. And like, just like you would ground a client and be like, yo, look, like I get that you want sconces here and a chandelier and all this stuff. It's too much. It's like the same way that you know, your artist came to you and she was probably like, look, these are all really good ideas, but in order to make this a long lasting, quality, cohesive thing that lasts on you the same way that a house should, these are the elements that we should focus on. This is what we should stick to. This is how we're going to do this. You know, you still have to, she had to, and you've probably had to in your housing experience, you have to kind of put your foot down a little bit and be like, hey, I'm in this position for a reason. So like, let me guide you through this. But that's also where I think you touched on this kind of sort of earlier too. I advise my clients as well, before you work with a tattoo artist, make sure you actually like them. Make sure you actually connect with this person, that you feel like you can have an open conversation like that. Because I've had, or at least heard of, a lot of situations where people will go to an artist to get tattooed and it becomes a very almost obligatory situation, where someone will just kind of present what they do in almost a borderline aggressive manner, where you almost feel like, if I say no, this guy or this girl is going to be upset right now.
Yeah.
And that's not a good thing.
But then, at least in my experience, as somebody who has one tattoo in the form of a sleeve, I know nothing. And I'm an artist in a deck, sure. But when it comes to like how it sits on the skin and how it looks with other stuff, like
exactly,
it was difficult for me personally to be like, I have a vision in my head.
Yeah.
And her to be like, well, that's not going to work,
like,
because
that sounds like shit.
Well, because like your arm's not as wide as your back, and we can't fit that there.
Yeah, you don't understand body contour
totally.
and how to place an image.
And then like, you know, I would be like, well, maybe we should do like this fish today, or we should do this part today. And she'd be like, no, we got to finish this before we do that. Yep. Or like, you know, she'd be like, I want to outline this in that color. What do you think? And I'd be like, I really don't think that's a good idea. And she'll be like, from a compositional point, this is why I think you should do it. And I'd be, and usually at the end of her giving me a reason, I'd be like,
makes sense.
I'm just going to trust you, because like you do this for a living, and I found you solely because I loved your art that I found on Instagram. Like I didn't find her and be like, you're a decent human being who does tattoos.
Just looks similar.
Yeah. No, it was like I found art I would never put on my body. Sure. It just happened to be a stunning, I think it was like a fox. And I found it and I was like, I want whoever can do that kind of detail. I want that person. And then I was like, she happened to be in Raleigh at the time. Now she's in Chapel Hill. But either way, we're in Durham, so it was all easy.
Yeah.
And as you said, like the first meeting, which is, for anybody who's never had a tattoo, is not tattooing. It's literally just a meet and greet.
Yeah, it's a consult.
Yeah, it's like, what are you thinking? What's your style? What's your budget? What's your time frame? That kind of shit. And, you know, I think we both just had a good vibe with each other. And now the project's done and we've become friends.
Yep.
Like her and, you know, her husband and I lift weights together.
Yeah,
my girlfriend and her like go hiking. Like, so it truly is like, you don't want to have, like you said, that obligatory whatever. And it's the same, you know, with contractors. You know, I want all the work there is.
Yeah.
But I'm not naive to not know that I'm a dime a dozen. There are a million of me that, even without licenses, who are like, well, if it's under $30K, I can do that job. I can build you a deck, get a permit. Like, there's so many of us. And, you know, I think really the only thing that honestly separates us apart are things like our integrity and our communication and, you know, how we handle the crisis that will eventually come. You know, do you blow a gasket and fire your electrician? Or do you bring him a Coke and go, hey, man, this is screwed up and we need to figure out the middle ground where I'm not giving you the $6,000 you think you're deserving, but I know you can't do this for free, but something, we got to figure this out. And so, like,
I think it's details. For me, it's always details that sets people apart. And like by details, I mean, does that person take the time to write a summary of a phone call you just had? Does that person take the time and have a system in place where if they have a job at your house that morning, do they send you a text letting you know, hey, the crew's 30 minutes out, or hey, they're 30 minutes late, whatever. Just little things like that that make me feel trust in someone, which in turn is going to make me want to continue to do business with
See,
someone.
I do that text because
You
my
know?
time's valuable.
Well, yeah, I mean, and I think that also then comes down to like personality types, because I think you
Yes.
probably have people like, you know, me and you, who are a little bit more, I don't want to say anal, but just a little bit more like
100%.
a little bit more over the top, and like we just cover all the bases. And then you have people like Jim, with no disrespect, but it's just different ways of doing things, a little bit more laissez-faire, a little bit more like, oh, it'll work out, and if it doesn't, I'm going to scramble at the last minute to try and figure it out, which for me is like my way, and probably maybe your way of addressing this. I would be more of a contingency person. I would be more like, if this is going to happen, I'm already going to have this track in place that we can switch the tracks and the train can keep rolling, rather than in sometimes a gym situation, the train comes to a grinding halt and you're just like, all right, what the fuck do we do now?
Yeah. No, I mean,
Which is cool. It
It's
happens.
Both ways get it done, as we have literally
It's
experienced.
just what level of stress are you willing to deal with while that thing is getting done?
And how much you want to be involved.
And like for me as a person, personally, it's like I value my peace so much, because the closer I am to my peace, the closer I am to my calm, the closer I am to being able to tap into like just my power, the things that I can do. The more calm you are, the easier you can access those things. If you're emotionally frazzled and you're trying to think through things under a state of like anger or frustration, whatever, you're going to be making choices that you wouldn't normally make as a rational human. You're going to be saying things that you wouldn't normally say as a rational human. Like, you do a lot of damage when you try to make decisions under emotional duress like that.
Dude, I almost lost an electrician because of that.
So-
and I look back on the situation like you were tired, hot, dehydrated, and angry.
Sure.
And all you had to do was cool off for an hour
or
and
be
then
like, hey,
call
give
him.
me 15 minutes to process this, or
Yeah,
whatever.
But instead, I just like misinterpreted a text and decided to just call him, yell at him, and hang up on him.
Right.
And he literally called my dad and was like, I know you are all partners in this company. I'm not going to talk to Corbett again. And he called me and he was like, what did you do? And I was like, I screwed up. And he was like, make it right. And I literally like called him back. And I was like, dude, I think I called him the next day. And he immediately was like, I was tired and dehydrated too, man. Let's just forget about it.
Yeah.
No worries. Like, we've done how many jobs together? Let's keep working. And I was like, dude, you're a gentleman.
It's amazing sometimes how if you just can create some space for yourself to process whatever it is that you're dealing with, or at least to be able to zoom out and be like, oh shit, like I haven't eaten in 4 hours, I haven't had any water, whatever. And starting to notice those little things, and you start to feel like a child, because you're like, oh fuck, like I'm completely
why did I do that?
Why am I doing this? This is so unproductive. It's hurting me. I'm upset. I'm binge eating now. I'm drinking now. Like it's not.
Yeah.
It's just not productive.
It was all, and it just was so easily avoidable.
And at the end of the day, it's our biggest. It's ironic because it does the biggest thing that we hate is it wastes time.
Yeah, which is you said it nail on the head. It's the thing we hate the most, and we wasted our own time by ourselves in our own way.
Yep.
All right, so these
Sorry.
life lessons are incredible,
Yes.
and I appreciate you for them.
Sure.
But I just want to let's circle back here.
Shoot.
So
Let's go back to topic.
let's go. I mean, the topic is we're having a podcast.
Yeah.
You want to talk about? Did you learn French in high school? No, I'm just
Yeah,
kidding.
yeah.
I took Spanish. So. Thank God I did, actually, because in my trade, French would not help.
Yeah, I'd say
There's
it
no
served you.
French,
It served you.
no French carpenters.
No, not here.
Not here. No, maybe in France. So about your personal build.
Shoot.
So like what kind of house? How many stories? Let's start there.
2 stories.
2 stories. Okay.
About 3,300 square feet.
Oh, it's a big house.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's pretty.
Because
big
I'm in
house.
like 1,500, so it's like double.
Yeah.
Garage.
Yep.
Attached.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. All attached.
Where did you get the plans?
So everything was done through Caruso Homes, and they have this. It's called On Your Lot. So basically, what you can do is they package up their house alongside like a piece of land, basically. And I had found this like 13 acres out in Bahama, and just kind of jumped on it. And then alongside that, they basically gave me several options of homes that I could kind of go with.
So you bought the land independent of them?
Yeah.
Okay, so you owned 13 acres and then you approached Caruso Homes, or was Jim
Basically.
like, you should talk to Caruso
Jim was like,
Homes?
you should talk to them because they had an offer on this piece of land where they were going to try and do an On Your Lot with the person that owned the land.
Okay.
I kind of came in, bought the land, and then told Caruso, I still want you guys to do the house. I just didn't want to have to go through Caruso to get the land as well.
Right, you're like, I got money, I'll buy the land.
I'll just do it myself.
Just buy the land.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably save some money.
Right.
So Caruso then, I'm going to assume, as a company, is a licensed general contractor and
Yeah.
probably pulled the permits
Yes.
themselves.
Yes. And from what I understand, they're originally a home building company. I want to say they're based out of like Massachusetts and Virginia, and they're in a couple other states. And I think my house, alongside a couple others, were some of the first ones that they were doing in North Carolina because they're trying to like establish themselves here.
Oh, okay.
Granted, they picked kind of a rough time to do that because they basically started on my house right as Corona was ending. So I was still dealing
When
with a
stuff
lot of
was like the most expensive. Yep.
Stuff was taking forever to get there.
I mean, let's be honest. It hasn't gone back to normal 100%.
No.
Like,
but
as somebody who's still building, like, I got, my plumbers, like, all the fittings went up 20%. They didn't go back down.
Yeah.
So he's like, that $7,000 is $8,500 now, and there's nothing I can do about it. And I was like, I understand. Like, let's be clear. I get it.
Yeah.
Like, thank you for not adjusting your labor for me is basically how I respond to that. Because he should. He does for anyone else, let's be honest. But, he's my fellow New Yorker.
Well, certain relationships, it's good to maintain that.
Oh, yeah. I've shouted out Tommy Adams so many times. I mean, that dude has come here. He has, like, on a Sunday come over here to just, like, oh, yeah, your wax ring in your toilet's broken. I'll be like, what do I owe you? He'll be like, $10 for pots. And I'm like, dude, here's 50. What are you talking about? He just wants a beer out of the fridge.
That's good.
But, that's another a life lesson point we can make just about like networking.
Sure.
And keeping your network and,
it's who you know.
Respecting your guys' time also. When he says he's busy, I'm like, dude, I just appreciate you remembering to tell me you're busy.
Yeah.
Like, that's worth so much. But again, we touched on that communication. So if Caruso is the contractor and builder,
yep,
because a lot of times they're different, Jim was just kind of like...
Jim was just there. It almost felt like he was my construction bodyguard in a lot of ways. Like, he was always there to just kind of verify what they were telling me, to verify what they were explaining to me as far as, like, timelines, stuff like that. And I think
he's a translator.
Well, but it's also that Jim is very established in this area. And I think this is probably true for all areas. But correct me if I'm wrong. But Jim, I think, is also very well connected into what is fondly known here as like the good old boy network. So he can definitely get contractors and get things done at a much, much shorter timeline. He can make the direct phone call to the owner. And I'll give you an example for this. Caruso had originally told me that the well that they were putting in was going to take them 4 to 6 weeks.
I know for a fact what well guy he used because he called me.
Which was insane. Yeah, I know. Which was insane. Because Jim made 2 phone calls and the well was done within 10 days.
Yep.
So there was
shout out to Hudson Well.
Big time.
I want him to get on the podcast, and he was like, I don't want to talk about that. And I was like,
time.
Dude, just come talk about water. People love water.
He's a super nice guy.
And talk about a good old boy.
Stop by my house and real nice guy.
Oh,
and maybe be like, oh, okay, like I'm definitely happy I live in Bahama now. Like,
he's not from Bahama.
He's just but
he did my well. That's why.
Yeah, he's solid. But anyway, like the point being is that I just was really surprised though that a company as big as Caruso trying to make these moves into a place like this did not really connect these things. And from what I could tell after speaking to the main contractors that did the well and the septic, a lot of these people weren't even contacted ahead of time. So I was given a lot of misinformation by Caruso stating that they had things lined up that weren't really lined up.
No, the lining up, as I'm using air quotes, was they sent the first and roughest part of a plan to people just to get numbers.
Sure.
And that well and septic person gave them, probably gave them a number knowing that Caruso was going to use them for the next 40 houses over 8 years or whatever the numbers are.
Sure.
And so they were like, they gave him a number for $500 or $1,000 less than you would have gotten. And Caruso was like, well, that's worth the 4 weeks. Whereas you were like, this is not worth the 4 weeks at all. And I don't know the numbers, but I bet Hudson Well did it cheaper anyway.
He did.
Because he is, yeah, I don't know how he does it cheap, but he does not feel cheated. He makes his living, and I've gotten a well, you've gotten a well. My friend Jeremy also got a well. That's actually the initial point of contact is Jeremy, and all three of us have gotten wells cheaper and quicker from this
look,
guy.
I mean, we're both businessmen, so I can understand that even Caruso, like, they have a hustle, they need to make money off of the things that they're offering, and I get
they don't
that.
do it for free.
So, but it was a little bit of a glaring realization to kind of hear the number that Caruso was trying to charge me for it, and then to have Hudson tell me what he was willing to do it for, and it was pretty shocking, but it is what it is.
And that money you just get to put back in your pocket.
Right in my pocket.
Because Caruso's not gonna.
No, and they gave me that money back because I was like, I'm gonna do it this way.
Yeah,
and I can get it done faster than you guys, and I can get it done cheaper than you guys.
So it's interesting that you were even able to do that. That like there wasn't
any pushback or anything.
Yeah, or like some sort of contract in place that Caruso was like, well, we don't know him. You have to use approved vendors or something like that.
I think at that point they were willing to give me that leeway because,
because they had to stop for 4 weeks too.
Well, plus the house had already been getting really close to the deadline, so I knew that they couldn't keep delaying me because they were gonna be in violation of the contract for when they needed to have the house done by. So they knew that Jim coming in, even though they were going to have to refund me money, was going to get the house done on time. So I think that's what made them.
That's so weird to me that the well wasn't done so much earlier.
Right.
How did they what water? Where'd they get water for the foundation? They bring a truck?
I guess so.
You weren't there.
No. No. Okay. A lot of this stuff, I was like, I don't even want to be around here because it's going to stress me out because I can already see how this is going. Because it was just. This is not a knock on Caruso. I understand they're in a new landscape, blah, blah, blah. But it's like, it was really just one delay after another. And like, you can blame Corona as much as you want. I really just have a problem with companies that don't take accountability and they try and shove off delays and things like that onto the clients and onto other people, and it would have made it 10 times better had they just owned up to it, even just one time.
Right.
Like,
not even fix the delay. Like, it's still going to be this much delay, but it's our fault. It goes a long way.
Yeah, a long way. And it just it was like no communication from upper management, which we were getting in the beginning, and when we started to get more, understandably so, a little bit more frustrated and antsy, and I was showing up at the work site every other day, like, all of a sudden I didn't hear anything from them anymore. So it was like, all right, I understand that I'm being annoying, but I'm also a paying client. I paid for my house up front in cash. Like, I think you guys can do me the respect of a little bit more communication. So, I mean, thank God for Christy Peak. Big shout out to Christy Peak. She was my realtor. Big shout out to her. I mean, she really helped navigate a lot of those waters and like be the intermediary for communication, because at that point too, I was completely losing my patience, and I'll own up to the fact that I was being very, very pushy. I was being very like emotional because I was just over it at that point.
And like your current living situation at the time, was there?
Dude, I was bouncing from Airbnb to Airbnb.
Oh, so even more, just
piling on. And they
stress.
knew how much that I was spending, $3-4 grand a month on an Airbnb, and I kept communicating this to them like, hey, I need to know when I'm getting my keys. I would get a date for when I was going to get my keys. I shit you not, the day that I was going to get my key, I'd get a phone call, hey, we got to push it out another 10 days. So on that same day, I would then have to scramble, find an Airbnb, book it for a month just to be sure. And this happened probably 2 or 3 times with the key exchange that it got pushed back almost a day or day of, with no communication even the day before. So it was a process, man.
I mean, it's like I'm on the other side of that coin, and I'm like, man, there's always delays, there's always problems, but the actual, like, it's done, you're moving in, like, you can't be delaying that the day of.
And you definitely can't build the expectation and then be like, oh, just kidding. You're like, what the fuck? I
mean, especially if you know, I mean, well, yeah, I mean, I don't know anything about Caruso homes, and, I know that this would never happen in my world because I am not a giant conglomerate.
Right.
I'm one dude with a pile of subs, and like the buck doesn't stop at my management company. The buck stops at me.
Well, so you're more vested that way.
Yeah, I'm I can build the same house that you just got built, but admittedly so, I'm smaller potatoes than Caruso Homes that's in multiple states, respectfully. But at the same time, I would never go in my state right here. I got all the subs, and the well sure as hell won't take 4 weeks.
Honestly, I think the big problem there is that I think Caruso's trying to grow too big too fast.
And they don't have their sub network.
They just don't. They don't have a network, and they also don't. I didn't mention this yet, but they also, I get the feeling that they either aren't paying their staff enough or they're not getting qualified enough staff, because my house was passed between 3 different project managers. The first 2 both quit.
I know for a fact that they don't have
So it was
quality staff,
so
because
me-
that's a universal thing in America for the
Yeah.
last, unfortunately, like 2 years. Like it's from my industry to, I bet, your tattoo industry, although I don't want to speak for you, to even when you go to a restaurant. Like everything stayed the same price or went up 20%, but the quality of people, you're going to laugh. You know where I see it the most and the worst is dealing with City of Durham for permits and inspections.
Jim says that all the time, and we deal with it too with the health department.
Right, of course. Yeah. So but it's like you call the City of Durham and literally you get a lady on the phone who, like, look, she has to feed her family. She needs a job. Good for her. But she needed to be trained before she answered the phone at the permit desk. Like, I cannot know more than her. And if I do, that's a problem. Because if I need something done and they're just like, I don't even know what you're saying, I've got to call this guy. And this guy's got to call this girl. And that woman's got to call another person before we just get to, the head of the inspections department, who I could have just called on the cell phone to begin with.
It took us a long time to find good, like admin, counter help, just someone that, that gives a shit.
Yeah.
You just, and like, I think another big quality that I would say I don't see as much anymore is like proactivity.
So would you do it again with like a smaller contractor if you were going to do it again?
I think so. I think at this point I would definitely, I mean, it's like anything though. Like you go through you've been through your first tattoo now, so you kind of also know what questions would I ask the artist. Your expectations are probably drastically different. Me having just gone through this process.
Not to cut you off, the difference though with me is like, I now have even more trust and would never go to another artist.
Right. You had a positive.
Incredible.
You had a positive.
100.
For me,
11 out of 10 would recommend.
I had the complete, polar opposite. For me, it's more like, all right, I have a bad taste in my mouth now with big guys. And I probably should have known that, because throughout time, when you look at, small mom and pop versus a big chain restaurant, where are you 9 times out of 10 likely to go? It's probably going to be the mom and pop shop, because you know that the food's going to be
nobody feels
done
good
with a little bit more attention, a little bit more love.
Nobody's soul feels good when they buy the cheapest thing at Walmart.
Well, it's like
you just do it because you need the cheapest thing and you need it now.
And it's a fundamental question that it's funny that you say it like that, because I ask myself this question now with literally anything I buy, anything I do, a person that I'm talking to, is I always ask myself, is this bringing me joy? Like, is this bringing me something? Like, is this giving me a good feeling right now? And if it isn't, then fuck that. So in answer to your question, I think I absolutely would want to go through a more like craft, family owned business where I know that more of their attention is on fewer homes, rather than knowing that they're trying to get 30 thrown up, rather than knowing that you're only trying to get 5 thrown up. Because
like if I'm building a home,
seems illogical.
Like when I'm building a home for Dakota Field Properties, which is like, the LLC that I'm involved in that owns all of the 10 rental properties that I have, like I am doing one at a time.
Yeah.
One.
Yeah.
Because it kind of requires that much focus. And we still mess up, man.
Yeah, of course.
And we still screw up. And I still get a plumber leaves a thing loose or leaves garbage somewhere or whatever. And, there's no such thing as perfect. But if I was stretched doing 3 houses, the things that I miss would be larger.
Yeah.
And, it's just like.
And I think they compound their subcontracting problem by doing it that way, because they also then are treating their subs kind of like chess pieces. They're moving them between jobs. Oh, okay, this one needs framing and this one needs, oh shit, this happened here. And then all of a sudden, you got this one chess piece that needs to be at 2 places at once. And then inevitably someone gets let down, something's not done on time. And then all those problems start to compound on top of each other.
Yeah.
Because if you never play catch up on anything, you're just still going to be dealing with the same problem continuously.
It's true. Yeah, it's true. There must be a benefit to that aggressive expansion, obviously, like the margin and the money. But I just, to me, like my reputation is really all I've got. And so, like, if I ever got too big too fast and started pumping out crap, it would not take long for the good old boy Durham network to be like, well, we don't want to be associated with that guy.
Right.
Like,
You all of a sudden,
like I did perfect plumbing, but the house is still crappy.
Yeah,
you know,
they're
and
not
it's
going to
like,
come on the next one.
exactly, or they're going to give me the screw you price, which is 30% more than it should be. And now what do I do? So it's like, I always have kind of thought like, okay, well, I only have the one name. That's it.
Yeah.
So I'd rather just make sure that, there are no cut corners. And I also like to overbuild. So, one thing that I love to do is I love to put, I think I even texted you about this. I like to put wood blocking before the sheetrock where I'm going to hang important permanent stuff like curtain rods.
Yeah,
put a piece of wood there, or we know that the bath hooks are going to go right here and right here.
Well, yeah, so I did that. I did blocking with like the bath hooks, with where the toilet paper was going to go, just anywhere where stuff like you're going to bump it and it could just pop right out of that drywall.
Exactly.
It's like,
yeah, and if I really I try to put blocking, but let's say I put the blocking here, but it really can't go there. I will go and immediately. There is no drywall anchor that comes with a product that I use. I immediately throw them out, and I have my own, take 120-pound test, way overkill.
Yeah.
But it's like, when you weigh the cost of, buying those by the thousand and just doing that versus having to repair it twice, it's not a cost. It's not even a factor. It's like, just do it. Just do it the right way. Yeah. So back to your build. So you have Caruso, who has some options of house plans. So you were like, I like option C. Let's go with that.
And then what was cool though, and it's kind of like me living out my Sims fantasy. What was cool with that is that within their pre-built plans, whatever, you could customize it. So what I told them is I really love an open concept. So instead of having rooms downstairs, my whole downstairs is a big open room. Basically, it's my living room, my kitchen, my dining room, and then a sunroom. In the original plan, they all have walls, whatever. And I was like, knock all these walls down. So it was nice that I could, somewhat customize, certain aspects of it on the interior, especially the structural side of things. Obviously, you can do, your marble and your fucking lights and your cabinetry and whatever. But it was cool that I could actually change some of the structural things within it. I asked them to do understair storage because I didn't want all that dead space under the stairs, stuff like that.
Yeah. Did you do any thoughts into aging in place?
As far as what?
As far as building your house. I personally am I guess I should elaborate. I'm designing a house for myself.
Yeah.
I have seen my grandmother and my mother, and I know I have a nerve ending disease that makes us walk funny.
So you like preparing for the future.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I'm designing my house, I am purposely going wide instead of up.
Sure.
And there will be no front entry steps. It will be level. Yeah. And, I'm making doors a little wider, hallways a little wider.
That's what I did. So what I did is all my sidewalks are wide enough for wheelchairs. There's no steps on any of the doors. Obviously, I do have a second story, but everything is close enough and engineered in such a way where if I can't move or something like that, I can always get one of those little lifts or whatever it is. But but more so just also thinking about family coming to visit, because most of my family lives in Belgium and some of them are not as able-bodied as they should be. So it's, I definitely think about that stuff.
Yeah, because I've been watching it.
Yeah.
Especially as I've gotten older, obviously my parents are getting older, and it gets progressively worse, and you see it quicker. And so I was just visiting my parents in New York a couple weeks ago, and there's handles everywhere and railings everywhere, and I was like, these were not here 5 years ago. And I see my mom needing to use them, and I'm like, crap, this is going to be me. I know. Elon Musk is not going to have that Neuralink ready in time.
Sure.
I'll be first online though to fix this nerve ending problem. But so I think about that, and the big thing that I did was think about how I want to be able to maintain my home. So I'm designing a house with no attic, no crawl space, and a massive utility room.
Yeah.
Everything is eye level, easy to swap out the water filter, easy to clean the whatever, easy to manage, easy to maintain all of it with a light and an outlet and a whatever and a drain in the floor if something breaks. Like, I don't want to be crawling under a crawl space. It's 50, it's 60, or paying somebody to do it. Like, I know how to do that if I don't have to drop to my knees or get arthritis or whatever.
Sure.
So I thought about that a lot, and I don't feel like, and this is not a slight to you at all, but I don't feel like a lot of people think about that when they're designing a home.
No.
So I was just curious if that was something, because, you know, you have Jim, who's an older man, and, you know, that's got to be on his brain a little bit.
Well, and and like my mom is like a recovered cancer or survivor. So it's like, and my aunt, who's also going to be building a home on that same 14 acres, you know, they're both older. So it's like, I definitely have been thinking about that. Maybe not so much in the view of myself, but now that you mention it, you know, it's definitely something that's probably going to be marinating or rattling around in my brain. That's for sure. But I would agree, like, most people don't think about that. And I think a lot of people too, I mean, I guess if you're our age and you're buying a home, you don't always think that that's going to be your forever home, I guess.
No, in fact, I think
for me, this is definitely my forever home.
think you and I are the extreme rare that at 33 are like, I'm building / designing a home and this is it.
Yeah.
Like, when I bought this house, everyone in my family was like, you won't be there in 3 years. You're going to buy the next one. You're going to meet some girl. You're going to have some kids. You're going to need more space, all this crap. Here I am, like 10 years later, like, just loving it. Have redone all the stuff people told me not to redo. Have added so much value. Have done stuff that's not worth value. I've redone both the bathrooms. I added that kitchen island. That was a closet. That was a closet, dude.
Yeah.
It was ridiculous. I'll show you the before and after picture later. But, like, yeah, and it's just, you know, I built that carport, just making things for me. Like, it just seemed insane to me to be like, okay, think about what you want and build it in 10 years. Like, wait a minute, I want a big giant shower now.
Well, yeah, it's like, that's the whole thing. Is like, I'd rather enjoy my life now than be 60 and be like, oh, now I've made it.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's a different view depending on the generation, you know. Like, that was our grandparents and parents' view, was like, you got to grind and work, and then you retire at 65 and you get to enjoy your life. And unfortunately, like, there isn't really a retire at all now because of the financial state of the world, let alone retire at 65 for a company you worked at for 20 years that'll then pay you. Like, that's
plus now it's
happening.
more the narrative of, like, you know, find your passion, build your side hustles. So it's like, I think people are being wired in more of a way to, like, find ways to continuously be in motion rather than to, like, work super, super hard to a certain point and then just stop. You know, I think it's more becoming, which I think in turn is also, you know, leading to people not wanting to stay in these jobs as long anymore. People are not staying in these 9-to-5 office jobs as much, and they're rotating jobs much faster now because they feel like they can go out there and kind of just they really want to find something that really makes them happy rather than that just pays the bills.
Yeah, I think that's true.
You know,
there's probably a much deeper economic conversation we could have on that regard. And I'll be honest, I'm probably not even really smart enough to have it. My brother, who trades bonds, he's probably smart enough to have that conversation. And one day he'll come on the podcast. Yeah, man. I keep asking him, he won't come on. Keaton, come on the podcast. Bring your partners. We'll all talk about finance.
There you
go. Okay, so the house, 2-story, those details are going to change for everybody, but I'm really interested to know, like, so you mentioned it a little bit, the well. That was a big, like, I guess, I don't know, we would call it an issue, a problem, some point of I don't know.
Inconvenience, you know.
An inconvenience.
It just was slow, you know. It just felt like I wasn't being told the upfront truth, and I understand why. Like, no one wants to give bad news. No one wants to let people down. So,
well, what were some of the other, like, big, like, red flags that are, like, the warning signs we're going to give to listeners / what happened to you that makes you not, you know, want to go with this big box I mean, I already know, like, I would never tell somebody to go with a big box
I feel like my process was a little bit different though than most, just because I don't think, or I would hope, that most people that are building their new home don't get passed between 3 different project managers. I think that really caused a lot of delays because
that's not controllable on your end.
No,
Like
of course
you
not.
hired a company,
Of course
and
not.
if a company restructures, that's
course
not
not.
like you're like,
course
okay,
not.
it
But-
was Mike, now it's Sandy.
But it's
Okay.
definitely, I feel like it's definitely, the job's, the company's role to make sure that the people in this position, when they do leave, are, passing things off in a proper way. Because, it felt like every time I had a new project manager, I had to restate everything I needed, everything I wanted, the small little details that I had spent time building the relationship with the previous manager that, was never communicated. So it was really difficult when you have someone who you think understands you and then they just leave and pass it off to someone else. And that definitely just made it really, really difficult. I think having a good realtor in your corner who is literally checking on a building company daily like that is what you need.
So that wasn't Jim. That was your realtor.
Oh yeah, that was my realtor. Jim was more like, if Jim was more someone that I called in for like the well, or there was something that I just felt out of my depth. I didn't know what a fair price would be. I was like, Jim, can you come stand with me for this conversation?
So he wasn't
and shove me in the fucking ribs if something sounds not good, like not right.
So he wasn't. I'm there from the beginning to the end as like your owner's rep. Let's call it.
But it was like, I'm here if you need me. If you need me to come look at the foundation they put down. If you need me to come look at the whatever, or like he would routinely come and check in the beginning when the skeleton of the house was there, making sure that everything looked right, that no corners were being cut. Which I know Caruso didn't like that, because there was plenty of times where Jim would give us information that Christy was able to then arm herself with, go to Caruso and be like, hey, this isn't done, this isn't done, this isn't done. They couldn't just slap the drywall up there and cover things up, because Jim knew what he was looking at. Christy didn't.
And you had no idea, and Christy had no idea.
No.
Yeah.
So it was a really team effort at that point. I think it's really good to have people in all those positions. It's like buying a used car. Bring someone with you that knows cars. So if you're going through this building process, like have someone with you who isn't necessarily involved in the build, but who can dissect what they're doing, who can explain it to you, and who might have a little bit more of a like intimate connection to what you should be paying, what you should be expecting. That really helped a lot. And then Christy being that kind of a barracuda, that was kind of like, don't mess with us. Like I'm watching everything that's going on. And she was meticulous as far as like when in-person conversations were being had, notes were being taken non-stop, conversations being recorded, because you go through an hour conversation, you're not going to remember everything that's talked about. It was just really valuable to have all those aspects covered, because you simply can't do it all yourself. You can't monitor it all yourself and live your life and go to your job and whatever the hell. Like, I think that really helped mitigate a lot of.
How'd you find this realtor?
I've worked with Christy for a long time. She helped me buy my first house on Carver Street 4 or 5 years ago. I've connected. She's helped all my artists find spaces to rent around Durham, homes to buy, etc. She's who I go to exclusively for anything real estate related.
Very cool. Yeah, it's
a good personal relationship, so I trust her. I understand her.
Yeah, I think that is very, very crucial. And not even just for the realtor, but just like you need to be able to trust in your people, and you need to be able to not only trust in their abilities, but be very aware of what are not their abilities. Like, you trusted her to be there, to be the shark, to take the notes.
Yeah, but I'm not going to ask Jim to negotiate. You know what
I
mean?
No, but what I was going to say, but you also knew that realtor had no idea what she was looking at. So, like, that's not her wheelhouse. She can't look at framing and go right or wrong, but Jim can.
Yeah.
But she can take the notes and then go to Caruso in a professional manner.
She knows how to communicate.
And be like, as the owner's reps, realtor, whatever, Joyce 4, 5, and 12
She's
are
armed
crooked
with
or
articulate
whatever.
information. It's really important.
And I have told one person only because I had this conversation similar to you about this, and then they were building the house for themselves. I was like, it might be a good idea to get inspections. And she was like, oh, we're of course getting inspections. I was like, time out. That's not what I meant. You have to get the standard inspections from your city and county and all that crap, building or framing, insulation, electric, whatever. I meant to use the example of you, a gym. like a completely independent third party.
Well, who's not invested? You know,
Who's
who doesn't
not
have
invested,
He doesn't
who-
have an interest in what direction this goes. Only that it's going
Yeah.
in the right direction.
Like hypothetically, if a stranger came to me and was like, "We want to hire you to do that," I'd be like, "Cool, I'm gonna need $100 per inspection or whatever," or like I will come out 12 inspections for $1,000 over the course of this house, and I would not really care if the house is on budget or if the house is on time. You just tell me, like, we want to make sure the framing is perfect. We passed our framing inspection. We're not confident. Come take a look at it, point out everything that's wrong before we insulate and sheetrock. And I go, okay, I can do that. Like, because then you're right. Like, I don't really care about anything but that.
Well, you're not going to be biased. That's the
Exactly.
whole thing.
I'm just going to go and be like, that's good, but that's not correct.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care what anything says. I just know that's wrong, or it doesn't match the plan, or both.
Yeah.
So I don't think that a lot of people are doing that because it's just more money. And, unfortunately, as you very intelligently put, you get what you pay for. You pay for what you get. And, it's all about who can do it the cheapest most of the time. When you're building a new house as a giant company, especially.
9 times out of 10, yeah.
Yeah. Like me as a smaller, I like to usually get 2, sometimes 3 bids. And usually I'm always going with my person, and I got the other bids to keep him honest. So like, my sheetrocker his prices will start creeping. And then I'll get another sheetrock bid and I'll be like, you're $2,500 more than him. Come down, or I'm going with him. And he'll come down, or he'll work with me. But sometimes I just I need a new trade. Like, I don't do a lot of carpet. Actually, I don't do carpet. So one guy was like, I need carpet. And I was like, okay. And I went and found 3. And I was like, I don't know you. Give me 3 numbers. And I just went with the middle guy because I was like, I don't really have a frame of reference, but that seems way too high. That seems almost like the cost of the material. I went with the middle guy.
Yeah.
So, the cheapest is not always the best. It has to just be said over and over and over again.
It's always quality over quantity, and that's like you versus Caruso. It's the same thing.
Yeah. And
not that Caruso does poor
yeah,
homes.
yeah.
We're not
shitting on Caruso. It's just a matter of
they built a great home. It just took way too long.
The problem is when you're dealing with the Carusos, like a company like a Caruso, at what point up the ladder do you get to the person that cares about this? You're probably never going to get to that person.
Yeah, I'm not going to get to John Caruso.
That's what I'm saying. Like when John Caruso started building houses as a kid, probably loved it. He was probably working with his grandfather.
For all you know, he could have been someone like you.
It could have absolutely been. It most likely was. And then he got really good and he scaled. But, again, we're not shitting on John Caruso, but there was a moment when he just needed employees. He needed for someone to answer the phone. He needed an office staff.
He wanted to live a life,
He wanted to live a life. He wanted to have a family, maybe. He wanted to do whatever he wanted to do. And at some point, they became people who answer the phone who need a job for a paycheck versus I plumb because I love pipes. I want that guy. That passion cannot be faked. That passion cannot be paid for.
For sure.
You can't pay. You could give the person who answers the phone $1 million a year salary. It's not going to change their passion about buildings.
Yeah.
It's just that simple. You have a passion about tattoos. You own tattoo shops. You're covered in tattoos. You didn't do that just because someone told you could make money.
Yeah, no.
It's nice that you make money.
It's a happy consequence.
That's a happy consequence, right? Yeah. I did not get into this world to make money. I got in this world because my dad's an architect. My mom's an interior designer. Our 2-bedroom cabin is a 20 million bedroom thing now because my whole childhood, there was someone building an extension and then an extension off the extension. And then the pool got redone, and then the whatever, and then the shed got built. And if it was over the summer, my dad was like, "You want to go to summer camp, or you want $15 an hour to go work with Fred?" I want to work with Fred.
Yeah.
I loved it. Swing a hammer.
Yeah,
I found out I was ambidextrous with a hammer. Everyone was like, "That's insane. We've never seen that." I was like, "Well, my arm hurts. I just switched." This was 6 years old.
Yeah.
Right. And it just has been a passion ever since. I learned to read drawings because they were out. No one ever taught me. I was like, "What's that? What's that? What's that?" They were just there all the time. The bus dropped us off at the office, which was in front of the house. And so like you can't fake that passion
Yeah.
for admiring wood grain and admiring somebody's trim details and caring when somebody's van is clean and loving a clean job site.
Yeah.
Like you can't fake that.
Sure.
That's ingrained in me.
Definitely.
And John Caruso has that. But again, there was a moment.
Yeah.
There was a moment. And you can't, it's hard to get that gap reclosed, you know, unless you do, what was that guy? Jesse James, who was like, you know, had 700 employees building bikes in California. And then
the guy who built my rifle.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he built my rifle.
I was just gonna say, and then he shut everything down and moved to Texas and started building guns,
Yeah,
like to do a one-man thing.
That's who I buy my guns from.
That's so funny that you actually get from him.
Yeah.
God.
Yeah.
No wonder they're so overpriced.
Oh yeah, dude.
Ah, Jesus.
Yeah.
I like that dude, but I like that dude, but I would never overpay for one of his rifles.
Yeah. It's sick, man. It's all hand machined and it's incredible workmanship, man. Yeah, the metal work that he does is crazy too.
I mean, I could imagine the dude made custom bikes.
Yeah, he just sold. I think he just built one for Dana White that he sold for like $250,000 or something like that.
Man,
Yeah.
I like Dana White. That dude just takes no shit.
Oh, that's a boss, right?
Yeah,
there.
he's just like, I just takes no shit. Yeah,
Come on, boss.
I love it. He's just like these public interviews where he's just like, F this, F that. We're going to do it anyway. I don't care. He's fired. Like, and then
It's like Joe Rogan at that point. You know, they just have so much power and influence. Like, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that is an interesting point that there's a level where it just simply doesn't matter.
And they don't care.
No.
Like, you know, to a certain
No.
it's just like.
No, I don't think they care. But also, they've figured out, well, at least those two. I can't talk about other people in that power, but those two have figured out, like, yeah, we're on social media. We post and ghost. We never look at it. We have a person who posts that shit.
Yeah,
we have lives to live. And, like, if you don't like it, tweet about it. I'll still get followers.
Yeah.
You know, like, they just don't care, you know, and they're doing their own thing. You know, I'm jealous of their like freedom.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I'm sure there's people listening to this who are like, you shouldn't talk about Rogan. He's a jerk. And I'm like, you know what? Maybe he is a jerk, but I actually listened to him and the other comedians who have had him on his show, and he seems like the nicest, most generous dude ever.
I think
who opened a comedy club I really want to go check out.
I just think it can never hurt to let yourself listen to different perspectives. I think it's just healthy.
Yeah,
Like
that's an interesting statement.
His opinions probably make a lot of people really uncomfortable, but I think those same people should ask themselves why they're feeling uncomfortable, because it just might be that they're uncomfortable because it's a thought that they've had and they feel like they shouldn't have that thought.
Yeah,
or whatever it could be. You know, my point being is just, it's good to have an open mind. It's good to listen to different perspectives, even if you don't agree, because it's just extra information that you can then use to make up your own mind.
Yeah, and it's good to also get comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Yeah, like I said, it's the best thing.
Yeah, it's
the best thing for you.
That's like that when my sister-in-law and I almost at the same time started cold plunging. That was the thing we said to each other. Like, you got to just be comfortable with the uncomfortable.
It's where your body grows.
Yeah.
Where your mind grows, where your body grows. It's like at the gym. It's when you push yourself, when you go that little bit further that you didn't think you could go. It's like, oh, I can do that. And then something switches in your body and your mind, and physiologically, like just something switches.
Yeah. Man, that's so well said.
That's why
point.
That's why you always have to just reach that limit.
Yeah.
Break through it, rebuild it, and break back through it again.
Yeah.
Otherwise you never make gains.
It's so easily applied to just like every facet of life.
Everything.
Yeah. Wow. We're getting deep.
Hey, man, that's what I like.
Nah, I like it. No, I'm all for it, man. Okay, so diving deep back into your house. How long has it been done? How long have you been living in it?
3 weeks.
Okay.
Yep.
3 weeks.
Yep, 3-4 weeks. But it's I don't sit still. Like, the house definitely looks like someone's been living in it now for a couple months. And
okay, so what's the thing that you're like, man, we shouldn't have done that?
Should have or should not have?
Either, both. Yeah. Like, I know you walk by one thing and you're like, that should have been higher, or we should have taken out that wall, or we should have put up that wall, or that should be a double door. Like, there's got to be something. There's no way it's an 11 out of 10 flawless.
No, I think some of the locations of the windows I would have changed to be more symmetrical. So there are some bedrooms where the window is like kind of like close to one edge of it for whatever reason. So there's like but that's just me because I'm a very symmetrical person. I like things that
Yeah,
are like
we
very
have
like
similar
nicely
OCD,
laid
it sounds
out and
like.
like stuff like that. So it's like if I see two windows and one window over here is further away from the edge of the wall than this one is, it kind of bothers me. But you know, it is what it is. It's not like a huge deal. You can,
Yeah, you still
you
got
can
the
decorate
daylight.
around that.
Yeah, yeah.
You know. I'm trying to think if there's anything else because I mean, honestly, I really tried hard to plan ahead as much as I could. Like I had an in-ground pool installed simultaneously alongside it, just to make sure that the house and the pool would look good together. So it all just kind of like flowed in together like that. Honestly, I don't really have that many other big complaints about it, man.
I think you might be the first one to say that about their.
It was the process itself that I would just complain the most about.
So
but
the product, you're like, the product is basically what I wanted.
Which I'm sure Caruso would argue, like, all right, well, isn't that the point? It's like, yeah, but at the same time, like, I think there's still ways of doing things where it can be done in a less stressful way for the client. You know?
Oh, for sure. There's no build that has ever completed on time and on budget. That doesn't happen.
Right.
That's like a it's a different industry.
Which is something I've heard quite a lot. So it also makes me question, like, maybe my expectations are just too high. Like maybe I'm just transplanting over my expectations from other industries when construction maybe just is such a unique beast that you just can't really have it be as reliable or on time as you might be able to get other things to be.
Yeah, there's just too many factors, and
probably too many moving parts and liabilities.
There's too many moving parts, and I mean, you can really do your best to mitigate some stuff. You can really do some planning. You can have plans in place for when things go wrong, but at the end of the day, like, you can only plan so hard for when something just happens. You know, like you can't control that the semi tractor trailer truck with your doors got in an accident with another semi tractor trailer truck, and now the company, at no cost to you, by the way, has to remake them and reship them.
Right.
That's 4 weeks you were not planning for, and there's no way to plan on that. But you now have to go tell, you know, the trim carpenter, you got to go find another job because you have to eat, because you can't just sit for 4 weeks, because I can't pay your hourly wage for 4 weeks to do nothing. Like, so, okay, so then he goes and gets another job. And then the doors come in at 3 weeks instead of 4.
Yeah, he's still busy.
And he's still on that other job. So then the doors sit there for a week. And you think nothing's going on, but in reality, like, everything is going as best as we possibly can, given the circumstances. And, like, you're the customer who just sees it should have been done 4 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Now at 3 weeks later, there's doors leaning against a wall instead of in the rough openings.
Yeah.
So it's like, you know, but then it goes back to the point that we've kind of circled around, is like, if Caruso Industry, whatever, had called you and been like, hey, Wieland, you're not going to believe this. The truck on 40 got slammed into by a cattle truck, and the doors are going to, and all your doors are shattered, and they're going to remake them at no cost to you, but it's going to take 4 weeks. I've got to send the carpenters away. And you would be like, obviously you have to send like, once you hear all those things broken down, again, in simple communication, you would be like, A, that sucks. B, I get it. C, thanks for the call. And in 4 weeks, let's get them in right where they should have been. Because what are you going to do? You're fired. Like, no, okay. Like, thanks for the call. But you got no, in this example, you get no call. You show up day one. There's no one working. There's no doors. Then you've got to call them to get that story. Then you go, oh, let me get over being super angry. Let me not yell at you. Let me go get some water and some food because I'm a baby. Yeah. And then, you know, you go in your calendar and go, okay, move that date to 4 weeks and I'll check on them then and blah, blah, blah. But it's all just about, like you said, you know, it's a communication thing.
Yeah.
It really breaks down. So really, the product is as good as you would want. It's really just the process has soured you on a bigger box company.
The process definitely, and I mean, like kudos to Caruso as well. Like I told you, I was pretty, as far as like my plan for it, I was fairly hands-on and also trying to, so what I did, for example, is I went through Caruso's price sheet, like what they were charging me for floors, stuff like that. And what I started doing is I started calling my own contractors and started getting my own quotes for certain things. And again, kudos to Caruso for allowing me to do this. But like I even told Caruso, like, hey, I'm going to do my own floors because what you guys are charging me is like 3 times what I could get it done for.
Yeah.
So it was really nice that I was able to eliminate line items and basically plug and play some of my own contractors and some of the things.
Yeah, I think, in my opinion,
which seems like a really uncommon thing.
I was just going to say, in my opinion, you only were able to do that because Caruso is so new to the area. If you went with, I don't know, some other builder that's a more local person that has all the subs in place, and they would be like, for insurance reasons alone, no to that. You hire us or don't hire us. Or like, you can hire us, and when the job is complete, you can then go in and we'll it'll be plywood, and then you can do whatever you want. But like, because I would imagine that would be a big problem just from like an insurance perspective. But again, I don't know what it's like for one of those like massive box chains. I have steered clear of them. I don't even remember enough of them to start naming them.
Yeah, no.
But in my opinion, in my personal experience as a contractor, I have gone to several like a big cul-de-sac neighborhood where they're building 50 houses, and I'll go, and the things that I can pick apart from like pretty far away just make me nervous about like the homeowner having to just repair that one day after that 1 year warranty. And so for me, it's like, man, my cousin had the same situation in Raleigh, and I went there to deliver some, custom woodwork that I did for her. And just like looking in her crawl space and her utility room, I was like, in 5 minutes, I was like, who built this? I'm never hiring them. Like, this is ridiculous. I was like, one, there's garbage everywhere. Like, this is an empty thing of pipe glue from the plumber. Like, I know it's just garbage, but then I was like, that should be pressure treated on the bottom. Those nails are sticking out. That's not the right screw. There's rust on the edge of your air conditioner. That's new. I was like, what? This is not like every corner that could be cut and still pass code was cut in this situation, because it's a big box builder.
Sure.
And like, I don't even remember the name. And like, Kelsey, if you're listening, I'm really sorry. I did tell you it in person, but it shocked me. Because for me, it seemed like I don't know how they're getting. I honestly don't know how they're getting away with it. I sometimes I don't know how they're getting away with it. It must last just past that 1 year.
Yeah, or lack of staffing, like you said earlier, lack of staffing in the inspections department, stuff like that.
I more meant like when something super serious breaks only 2 years into a new home, but the home builder gave a 1 year warranty. And it's now 2 years, and it's like, I don't care if it's 1 or 5. The foundation should not need repair, till 10 years, unless there's like a crazy water situation going on that's unforeseen, like an underwater riverbed.
Sure.
So it just, I think about that when I build, and it makes me cringe sometimes because somebody might not hire me because they're like, he's too small time to be building a whole home. When in fact, as you went through, sometimes that small time guy who has that sub of good old boys or the list of subs of all good old boys that's been doing this for a long time, you might actually get a higher quality product.
Yeah.
So let's end with, you got any advice for anybody who's about to think about building their new home?
I mean, kind of like I touched on earlier, I think if you could have some people in place that can offset any weaknesses that you have as far as like your understanding of construction, workmanship,
that third party gym, basically.
Yeah, having a gym in your corner is really, really crucial. Obviously, making sure that whatever realtor you're working with is willing to basically put in the work until you get your keys, as far as just nipping at the heels of these contractors, making sure that they're staying on their timing, because ultimately it's your responsibility to make sure that you're staying on top of these people and making sure that you're checking in with their time frames, making sure that you're just letting them know, hey, I'm watching, hey, I care, like I'm not just wanting this done. That would be my best advice. Just
and
really have people in your corner. Yeah. And,
like,
and don't
check in.
Don't be hesitant. Yeah. Don't be hesitant to, cause I did it at minimum once a week, if not multiple times a week. It's just really satisfying as well. Just go to your site and see what progress is being made, and just make sure that they see you there. And like, it just lets them know that there's a different level of attention being put on this place, and it just kind of keeps people on their toes.
Yeah, and I would say not even your GC, so not me, but like when there's 10 Mexican dudes framing your house, bring those dudes some pizza.
Yeah.
Like bring one day. It doesn't have to be a daily thing,
Yeah.
but like one day when it's particularly hot and crappy and they
Yeah.
really framed a whole story in a day, show up at lunch with pizza and some waters. Like it goes so far,
Yeah.
and it costs you $30.
Yeah,
like
it's
in
little
the scheme
details.
of a $300,000 house, it's not even a factor.
Yeah, it's little details like that, little details that you can do just as much as you would want them to focus on little details.
And they'll do things that you like would have to cost a normal person money, like that blocking thing.
Sure.
If you were like, hey, there's a pile of scrap at every framing job.
Exactly.
And if you were like, hey man, is there any way these 7 spots, and while they're there with the saw already out and the nail gun hooked up, and they'd be like, yeah, it'll take us 11 seconds. Pop, 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 pop. Thanks for the pizza.
Exactly.
But if like they're done framing, and then they've got to drive back out there for a whole day and reset up the saw and reset up the compressor and run the air line and put oil in the gun and get the saw back out and the sawhorses back out, like you got to give them more money.
Yep.
But some pizza and beer real quick. Hey, you need 10 blocks.
Literally.
Like 2 seconds,
Yeah.
and for all the trades,
Yeah.
like I'm not saying try to like squeak free shit out of all your trades. I'm just saying if you're going to ask for a quick little baby favor, it helps if you came with a baby favor of your own,
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I really appreciate you coming on, man, talking
Likewise,
about the process.
Anytime.
I know that building a house is a unique situation. Not everybody goes through it. I've heard from married people that it is the biggest test on a marriage.
I'm sure it is. I'm glad I got to navigate it alone and not subject anyone else to
There you go.
my
Yeah.
emotions during that time.
Jeremy told me that him and his wife were pushed right to the brink, just picking knobs for the kitchen counters. So I get it. Or I don't get it, but I saw it. Let's see. Anything else for new people building a home?
I appreciate the time. I'll definitely be back.
Dude, I appreciate the time. You're welcome back anytime.
Yeah.
As always, you can follow the Orange Hammer Podcast on, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. You can call me, email me if you want to come on the show. You want me to talk about something special, feel free to reach out. And everybody, thanks for listening. Appreciate it. Bye, everybody.